Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Blood, Guts, and Thunder. We've got a guest. It's the first time we've had a guest in a while. I'm really happy to have Adam Belz here from the Scuffed Podcast. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am decent enough. Considering there's been no national team soccer, which is what I base all of my happiness around. On our last. This is kind of a funny little tidbit. On our last show, I kind of went off on a little tangent about how cool it would be to have like 30 minutes of John Herdman just talking about soccer, just talking about his tactics. Because when he speaks to the media, so often it's in generalities. We don't get to hear the specifics of what he's implementing. And that's disappointing because so often when we play other teams, we hear coaches talking about these little things he does. The example I always like to point to is how Tata Martino was kind of confused at Canada's tempo shifts. Like quarter way through the game, just 15 minutes in, Canada would completely shift the tempo. And I'm not bitter at all about this. You guys, an American soccer podcast, got leaked a presentation. Is that right?
That's right. A presentation given to a lot of coaches in Canada, like maybe close to 1,000 or something, where it was available to them. So it wasn't like, this wasn't Watergate or something like that.
Yeah. Either way, like, it's just cool that something like this exists, that, there is some kind of platform where John wasn't necessarily thinking of the press as he spoke, and where, even if it was 2-3 years ago, like you said, where he kind of could delve more into specifics. And I guess I did this meta thing where I took notes on your guys' notes on the presentation. And I guess for the first half of our interview, I'd like to talk a little bit about it. Maybe about how it relates to Canadian team, and maybe also how it relates to the American team. The first thing you guys mentioned, and I guess the thing I get the sense that John really emphasized in this presentation, and again, I haven't actually watched this presentation, but
by the way, I'd share it with you, but that was the rule. Like when we got it leaked to us, is you can't share it with anybody. So
right, and yeah. I'm sure you still have that offer open for Berhalter's version. I'm sure. Yeah, so I guess something looks like John emphasized was being like a very organized and a very adaptable team, and kind of how crucial that is in CONCACAF especially. And yeah, like, do you get, just from what you've seen of the Canadian team, I don't know how much you've watched outside of like US games, but do you get that sense that Canada sort of, cultivated this adaptable identity?
Yes. Yeah. I'll be interested to hear more about that whole thing about the tempo shifts and how they confuse Tata Martino as we talk. But yes, yeah, it seems Canada seems like a national team. I mean, the results speak for themselves, right? But they seem like a national team where everybody knows what they're doing, what they're supposed to be doing, and I guess that's the starting point, right? And then they're able to do different things throughout the game. And I mean, that was really striking to me, the way the way central midfielders do things. They set cues for the rest of the team to snap into a different shape, or a different approach, like within the game. And that's a big contrast, I think, to the US, where it feels like we have this idea that we're trying to do, and we're going to do it come hell or high water, and it never changes. So I'm jealous a little bit.
That's a little strange to me in one sense, because it does seem like in some way the American team is very adaptable in that, like, sometimes you'll play completely different lineups in the same window. Do you have like any idea of, as the Americans sort of, you guys seem to have similar ideas, but why maybe it hasn't worked quite as well?
Oh boy, man, that's the question. That is the question.
$1 million question.
Yeah. I think so. I sort of expected to, I sort of thought, well, it's a young team. what Berhalter's trying to do is a big departure from the way the U.S. has played in the past. He wants to dominate the ball in every game and break the opponent down with the ball. That's not been the way America has played soccer. And so I always thought it was those two things. It's a young team. It's going to take a while to coalesce, and it's an ambitious project. Those were my main reasons. But watching the Herdman presentation, it occurs to me that there's a third possible reason, which is that Berhalter's just not as clear in his ideas or as clear in communicating them as Berhalter does. And that's one thing that comes across really clearly, not to just beat that word to death, really clearly in the presentation, is how good of a communicator he is and how clear his ideas are. It's crystal clear, and maybe there's an internal presentation from Berhalter that looks the same or has the same feel to it. I just haven't seen it. So that's the third thing I think now is maybe Berhalter's just not as good of a teacher as Herdman.
Yeah, I certainly hope this doesn't come off as me waving Herdman's flag for half an hour, because like in the past we've had our own criticisms of John Herdman. But they've certainly been quieted over this AUK, like they sort of had to be with what Canada's done. And I guess something you just talked about were kind of role players who I think with Canada, I think the sense is now that we have a lot of guys who sort of know what they are in the team. Almost like the US, we sort of have our players who we sort of know are central going forward, who we know are going to be crucial to our success. But just as important are the players who know what they do well and know how they're going to complement our top players. I guess like we've kind of gotten the impression, or we've kind of had a lot of players just kind of pop up over the radar, surprising us in that a lot of Canadians didn't even know they existed before this AUK. Is that like a sense when we play the US that we're kind of just pulling 1,000 rabbits out of a hat, and in contrast to the players you might know a little more about?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I've come to respect the Canadian player pool a lot over the last few years. Like you remember when you guys beat us 2-0 in the Nations League group?
Yeah.
It just seemed like everybody was pretty good for Canada in that game. And then, I think another big difference between the two teams is the quality of your strikers. Kyle Aaron and Jonathan David might, with all due respect to Raul Jimenez, probably the two most informed goal scorers in the region. And I don't know, that goal, I forget who was against. Was it against Honduras where David took that ball off his chest just inside the half and then
he kind of did it twice this window? Yeah.
Like it's super hard to imagine an American striker doing that. And that's just a class goal. And I don't know. I think that's in Berhalter's defense. That is a difference between the two teams. Also, I mean, I'm not trying to be a homer here, but there's also some variance in all this. Like, if Weston McKennie's header at the end of the first half and Hamilton goes 2 feet to either side, it's 1-1 going into halftime. It's a totally different game. But I'll quit with that line of thinking.
For sure. I kind of respect that line of thinking, because I don't know, I guess as Canadians, I think we're constantly insecure about the talent we do have. So it's gratifying to hear like an American say that about our strikers. I guess when we're looking at role players versus big talent, I want to ask another question about the US. There's like this idea, and I'm not sure how true it is. I'd like to hear it from you. That that the Americans are very much framed around like Pulisic ball, around give it to so and so and pray. Like, do you think this is a fair reading that maybe part of the US's struggles in this window have come from over expecting from your top players and not enough understanding of how your role players are going to complement everyone else?
Yeah. Pulisic ball is the bane of my existence personally. Like I can't take it anymore. Where he gets hurt. He hasn't been very effective trying to dribble people, but he keeps trying to dribble everybody, and there's not a lot of cohesion on the left side of the field when he's in the attack. And I guess I wonder, is Berhalter asking him to do that, or is he sort of freelancing and going against Berhalter's instructions? Either one I don't know which one would be more discouraging, but there's some signs. Pulisic's rounding into form a little bit for Chelsea right now, and he's said some stuff that indicates he's had a change of heart about how much pressure he feels to sort of carry the team. But that has been a problem. Like one of our best, our biggest difference maker in the attack has not been playing well for the U.S. and has tried to do too much at the same time. That said, he scored the game winner against Mexico. He scored a goal against Honduras. It's not like he's been a total zero. I mean, he's just like been below what he, I think, is capable of and what the team should be capable of with him in it,
Yeah.
But yeah, you keep asking about role players. I think the U.S. has a lot of good role players, and that troubles me that we're not getting more out of them. And I mean, are our role players so much worse than Canada's role players? I don't know. Maybe. I don't think so. But it seems like Herdman's getting more out of them.
I guess like the difficult thing for me is that, like when a Canadian fan who isn't that into soccer asks me like, why is Canada so different than how it used to be? Like, of course I can point to these talents we have now, but like when people ask why we're leading, the entire region, it's genuinely hard for me to answer, and I guess that's why I'm focusing so much on the role players, because it's something John Herdman focused so much on, and I guess from this presentation I'm just trying to glean out how these ideas have folded into our success. I guess in contrast to hero ball, another thing I found interesting about your notes from the presentation were platforms and passing triangles. Now, I'm not a coach. I actually I don't know any of these terms, but yeah, I was interested to learn how we kind of craft these plays to sort of allow ourselves to have the ball against the back line. Like
that was a fascinating. So maybe the most interesting part of the presentation to me was when Andrew, is it Olivieri? Is that how you say it? Andrew Olivieri?
Yeah. By the way, he is not popular in the Canadian fan base. Like his reputation is not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's obviously he's just executing something that Herdman has told him to do, but or that they've worked on together. But there's a part of the presentation where he talks about They both talk about AVPs, advanced platforms. These where you have somebody with the ball at their feet or under their control, either running at a back line, a naked back line, or behind a back line. So there's a lot of AVPs in a game. Say a diagonal ball gets played to the corner, and Alphonso Davies picks it up. If he's facing that fullback 1v1 with only the fullback between him and the goalkeeper, that's an AVP. And what was really fun, I thought, is Olivieri did this part of the presentation where he showed some clips, and he said, see if you can count how many AVPs are in these, like it was probably 3 clips. And it was really fun to try to pick them out just because I had just learned the concept. And so that whole thing is a way to measure success on the field that I had never thought of. And that is different from XG. And I'm not saying it's better than XG or better than like a shot count or what, any of the more traditional things, but it is definitely its own thing. And it is pretty interesting to think about soccer that way. How many times can we get our attacking players into that position in a game? Because then it's up to them. I mean, Alphonso Davies is going to beat a lot of people 1v1. Pulisic, when he's in form, is going to beat a lot of people 1v1, but not everybody is. But maybe they'll find a pass or something. And I think I thought that was a cool way to.
For sure, I really appreciate you summarizing that, because I was failing miserably. With Herdman, it's his rise has been interesting because he took a very unusual route to the national team beyond, coming from the women's side. He's English, but he didn't come from England. He came from he started his career in New Zealand, and he sort of credited it, that rise, that position, as giving him a different way of looking at the game. And like it just strikes me as so unusual to see like a national coach getting that specific, like even going this in depth into a performance, because the truth is, like with a national team, you're just not with the players with that much throughout a year. Like even when there's World Cup cycles, you're just not with your players that much. Like I'm just curious what you think. If another coach wanted to implement something similar, do you think it's like almost too ambitious to kind of go this in depth when you're only with the players for like a fraction of the year?
No, I don't think so. I think it's really smart, because he makes that point right at the beginning of the presentation, that we're gonna have 3 days together. We're gonna be traveling a lot. We're gonna be in different environments tactically and like climate wise and everything. So we're gonna have to have it be very simple and very clear. And so I think that really, it didn't seem too ambitious to me at all. It seemed like the exact right amount of ambition. That clarity is what gives, I think, Canada its edge right now. Or I mean, who am I to say what gives Canada its edge? But I think it's obviously a thing that should be giving them an edge, and it seems to be. With that, in the 4 phases of the game, they have like a single word, like in I forget what they are. I'll have to look it up here while I'm talking. But they have, so the 4 phases of the game: in defensive transition, after you lose the ball, and the other team has just recovered it from you, they're in hunting. They hunt.
Right.
So they like really beat that word to death, I suppose. And then once they if they can't quickly get the ball back, and they're in a sort of they're supposed to get into a set defensive organization, then they get tight with each other. That's the word, tight. And then the next word is available. That's in attacking transition. You make yourself available, and they have like a measurement where they're trying to complete 2 passes in transition. If they can complete the second pass, then they feel like it's going to set them up for success. And then when they're in the attack, they're adaptable, and we can get much more into that adaptability if you'd like. But I don't know. I think those 4 words, and Herdman was very clear that we have to have words that have an immediate impact on the mind, so that people can just easily snap into that role. I thought that was really cool. Again, I'm sure a lot of national team coaches, a lot of high-level coaches do the same sorts of things. I just haven't seen a presentation about it, I'd
actually love to hear more what you think about adaptability, because to me, that struck me as something I couldn't really elaborate on too much. Yeah, like, do you have any thoughts about how it applies to Canada?
Well, they have they talked about having different shapes in possession and being able to toggle between them within the game, which I'm sure has something to do with what was troubling Tata Martino. And the way they toggle, the trigger for the toggle, if you will, is one of the central midfielders, like Mark Anthony Kaye or Jonathan Osorio or Samuel Piet. Yeah, Samuel Piet. And they will move to a certain spot on the field to signal to everybody. I tried to explain this earlier, didn't do a very good job, but they'll move to a certain part of the field.
Great job. I'm just over my head.
Move to a certain part of the field, and that will signal to everyone else, we got to go into this new shape. So they're like he calls them the tactical architects. And then they train this. They have 4 seconds from the time of the cue for everybody to snap into shape. And they're like, they're held accountable to that. Just like they're held accountable to like how many when you're generating as a team or as an individual. I see that. I'm like, wow, that is really cool.
That is, yeah. Like, I think that even further kind of emphasizes the role of Stefan Eustáquio, who's been our big midfielder throughout this cycle. Right. Because John has always talked about him in those terms, that he's like our mind in the midfield. And I guess I wonder now if I guess that's what he meant, that like our midfielders are very much the ones executing these switches, these transitions. And I guess that leads into like attacking platforms. I think the ones you mentioned in the episode were low fullbacks and low CDM. Your co-host talked about the U.S. wanting to, or him wanting the U.S. to do something similar, to have more diverse options going forward. And as much as like Berhalter strikes me as a tinkerer, you sort of mentioned that your attack often looks the same. Do you have like an idea of what you would do different? Was it sort of like the 3-1-4-2 we do going forward?
Oh boy, what would I do differently? I think, one thing we talked about in our episode was a lot of the footage that Herdman and Olivieri showed in the presentation was tactical camera footage where you can see the whole field. You can see everybody on the field at one time.
Right.
The games that I watched, you almost never get that. No, you basically never get it. You
like the television angle makes them pop. Yeah.
Yeah, the television angle shows the center back with the ball in acres of green space, and then he hits a pass, and then you find out it's kind of like watching American football or North American football on TV. You see the wide receiver. You don't see the wide receiver until the ball is like 5 yards from their hands on the deep route. It's the same way in soccer. Like you don't see the rotations between the attacking players. You don't see any of that. So again, I'm sure the U.S. is doing a lot of the same stuff. I mean, I hope the wingers and the 9 are switching spots and rotating, and how Herdman uses the phrase rollouts. I hope there are plenty of rollouts. But I don't see it, because I don't have tactical footage.
Yeah.
I'd like to see. I mean, my biggest obvious gripe with Berhalter over qualifying has not been tactical. It's been player selection. Some of the players who have gotten to start have gotten a long leash and seem to have not deserved that. But now after this Herdman presentation, which I watched after the last window, obviously, and haven't been able to watch any U.S. soccer since, I feel like I'm more equipped to talk about tactics as a result of it, which I'm grateful for. It's not really my strong suit. My co-host Greg he's sort of the tactical mastermind of the podcast.
Yeah.
Very smart guy. I'm just I'm the host, and I'm learning. Let's just put it that way.
I am definitely also learning, because all this stuff still seems so hard to understand for me. That's something what you just said, that's something I hadn't really thought of, that like the television angles kind of limit our ability to analyze the game.
It does.
Yeah, like it's interesting that that's sort of still exclusive to the coaches, as much as we want to complain about tactics. When things don't go our way, like there's only so far you can go with that. And I think we're even kind of running into that in this conversation. So yeah.
I mean, you can see. I mean, on the other hand, you can see a lot. There's you can see, especially once the ball moves out of away from the center back's feet, you can see quite a bit. But yeah, we're limited. for sure.
I want to ask a few questions about the Hamilton game specifically. We don't have a lot of time, but I think we can fit a little in. We had quite different perspectives on Berhalter's now infamous dominant performance comment after the game. I don't know if you remember that.
I do indeed remember that. Yes.
Yeah. So I think I was a bit reactionary when I heard that, and I think like a lot of Canadian fans, I kind of laughed and said, wow, what an idiot. And I kind of got that was the consensus from the American fan base too.
Yeah,
but
that was my initial reaction too. I mean, not wow, what an idiot, but why would you say that even if you thought it was true? Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I think, I don't know. I just think it's interesting to kind of see it from the coach's perspective. Do you want to kind of talk about, sort of the media angle, like you did in the podcast?
Yeah. I can't remember what you're referring to, but two things come to mind. One, the Herdman presentation made me a little more amenable to that point of view because once I saw what Canada's benchmarks are, this is how often we want to allow the opponent into our attacking third, and AVPs are these things that we want to generate. We don't want the other team to have. I could sort of see the Canada USA game in a little bit different light, where I could see that Canada didn't necessarily meet its benchmarks. It's just the US was toothless when it got into those attacking positions. And that was, the example that we always bring up is there was like a throw in or something, and Brendan Aronson picked up tons of throw-ins, picked up a loose ball and drove towards the middle of the field, and then he played out wide to the left to Pulisic, and then he's 1v1 with Alistair Johnston, and he just kind of didn't really even get a decent shot off. And I thought, that even when it was happening, I was like, that is what we want. We want Pulisic 1v1 in the box. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was like a gilt-edged AVP, if you will. And so anyway, seeing how Canada measures their own performances made me think, there is something. Dominant is the wrong word, but I wouldn't use that word even now. But there were some good things to take away. The media angle that I think you may be referring to is Berhalter probably felt like he had to get the boys up for the Honduras game, and so he just had to be encouraging. Just like when your kid falls off a bike or something. You say, "Good job, buddy." It's like that.
But I don't know. That sort of stuck out to me a little. That I think as Greg said, not your coach, your co-host. That it's kind of the coach's job to take the heat from the fans in order to motivate their players, and I think I can respect that more than how reactionary I was when I first heard that quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess maybe this is the last thing we can talk about. You were talking a little bit about what John calls the final fourth. I found that a little funny.
I did too. I've never heard that.
No. Yeah. I guess from Berhalter's perspective, the U.S. was decently successful at getting into that final fourth, and I was at that game, and I was constantly terrified of Pulisic or McKennie advancing into those positions. It was quite scary to watch. I hate to sound like a broken record, but if you got that much possession in that position, what would you have done different so that the U.S. could have broken down that Canadian backline that was just hunting? That was hunting as much as it was.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm writing an essay.
It would have been nice to have Tim Weah on right wing. I think he's a far better player than Brendan Aronson.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, Aronson's a fine player, but he's not been nearly the player Tim Weah has been. So that was a big loss when he, his whole vaccination issue, and then I think starting Jazzy Zardes was a mistake given how we tried to play. We tried to. I mean, maybe the way we tried to play was dictated by the fact that we gave up a goal in the 6th minute. So then we definitely had a lot of the ball and definitely were trying to break down a very organized and resolute defense. But when you're in that kind of game where you're just trying to, when there's not a lot of space and you need somebody to pull out some magic and some technical quality in traffic, Jazzy Zardes is not the guy. And you could see that in the game. Like he had a few, limited opportunities, but he had opportunities to make something happen and he didn't. And that's not a surprise. He's not that kind of player. He's a player who gets on the end of chances and his movement is, drags people around. So, I think Ricardo Pepi would have been probably an improvement at striker. I think Jesus Ferreira would have been an improvement at. I understand the need and all that. Ferreira started the game against El Salvador, but that's what I would have done. And I might have pulled Pulisic off a little earlier. He was pretty bad to my eyes. He was pretty bad in that game. Like nothing really to hang his hat on. And sometimes you just don't have it. It's not your day. And his day, I've talked a lot of smack about Pulisic on my own podcast, so I'll leave it at that. But he wasn't very good in that game, and I think that was part of the problem.
I feel kind of bad for just like making you rag on your own team on a Canadian.
Oh, I do it plenty. Yeah.
That feels scummy. I don't know. I guess for our last question, I'm gonna get away from tactics, and I'm gonna bring this to the inevitable Canada versus USA discussion that it has to be, because that's all we know how to do. So I guess going into the next cycle, maybe depending on how well you guys do at the World Cup, and I'm going to assume we're both going to make the World Cup to make myself feel better. I think like a lot of American fans are expecting to have like, far and away like the best team in CONCACAF going to the next cycle, when a lot of your players ought to be reaching their primes. And I think Canadians are very, insecure about this. But some of us are kind of quietly acknowledging that, like, even with an expanded World Cup next time around, an expanded World Cup that hopefully we'll still be hosting by then, co-hosting by then, that like 2022 might be our real shot to kind of be in the limelight of CONCACAF. Do you think it's inevitable that the US is gonna rise to this quality and that they're gonna be like that far ahead of Canada come 2026?
No. Inevitable? No way. Yeah. I think it's an open question. I mean, Canada's got a lot of good young talent coming up, right?
You guys got 10 times the MLS academies. You've got like an much older league than we do. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think you can only put 11 players on the field at a time, and it's at least under Berhalter, which is, Berhalter's tenure has sort of coincided with most of the life of this podcast that we have, so when I've been sort of professionally paying attention to what's going on, it's at least under Berhalter. I don't know if dominance in the region feels inevitable at all. It doesn't at all to me. It feels it feels far away. And I don't see it that way. I was just watching Jaden Nelson the other week, dicing up the Dallas's right side of their defense. And I thought, man, he's coming too. He's going to be pretty good too. And that's him and Tajon Buchanan and Alphonso Davies, and I mean, I guess those three in particular have like that ability to just break a game open. Yeah. And even Tim Weah, who I like a lot, he doesn't have that same, just like, he doesn't strike the same terror in a defender that those three. I mean, no, I'm getting a little ahead of myself on Nelson, but the other two do, Buchanan and Davies. So I don't know. I hope the U.S. is dominant by 2026, but do not think that is inevitable. I don't know if I even say it's likely at this point.
Huh. That's so weird. I almost feel like more optimistic about your program than you do. Just with, I don't know, it feels like every other day you're exporting someone to Europe, and we get that like once a year.
I'm watching these guys. I'm watching a lot of these guys in Europe. They're not all lighting the world on fire. You know, they're. I mean, we should be pretty good, but I think one problem with the U.S. and maybe Canada has an advantage this way, is just how sprawling everything is. You know, and I know Canada's an even bigger country geographically than the U.S., but it's
mostly tundra.
Yeah, and you know, it's basically like when it comes to the soccer world, right? It's Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. I mean, with I'm sure there's more than that, but that's what I hear about a lot. And in the U.S., you know, bringing players like George Bello together with Serginho Dest and Anthony Robinson. I mean, their backgrounds are so different. The systems they play in are so different. And I think that's been one of the challenges. You can correct me and say that, you know, Canada has exactly the same challenge. I'd be okay with that. But it's been hard for Berhalter to bring it all together and make it cohesive. And he's had time to do it. That's the thing that's frustrating. He's had 3 years to do it. And it's we've seen some progress, but it's felt pretty halting. No pun intended.
Adam, I really appreciate your honesty on that. Keep going.
Oh, well, I was gonna ask you a question. How hard is Canada gonna try in the next window? Because we really need you guys to beat Costa Rica, or at least get a draw.
It doesn't seem like this team is capable of like not putting in a ton of effort. Like I won't pretend it always works out. I think like even early in qualifiers, there were times where we didn't look all that great. The Honduras home, Jamaica away. There were times where it looked like we were trying our best, but we just weren't converting. So I'll say that, like, you know, we're gonna try, but I'm not necessarily expecting like a 9-point window, and our players haven't necessarily been in the best form. In Europe, like Keiran hasn't scored since the last calendar year. David has just 1 goal, I think, in his last 10 games.
Lille is not super fun to watch.
No, they are not fun to watch. I'm glad we can share that. That's wonderful. But yeah, I think my expectations are like my expectations weren't high last window with Davies and Eustachio out, and they're probably at the same point for this window, I'd say.
Well, we really need you guys to get a result against Costa Rica. The whole 2.5 million soccer fans in America will be rooting for that.
I also want us to get a result. Oh man, it would be like hilarious and infuriating if we somehow find a way not to qualify. But Adam,
you guys are going to qualify. What are you talking about?
So. I don't know. Yeah. Stuff happens. Adam, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Really appreciate your honesty.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid. Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
So cool if you retweet it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I am with the Black Void of Nothingness, also known as my producer, James Sutherland.
I swear I'm here. Just for whatever reason my camera won't turn on for this one. But I am here, the Black Void Nothingness. Maybe I'll find a photo while we're talking about our hot takes, and I'll work it into the show. Yeah, for whatever reason, my camera's not.
Or just like a black hole up
there.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. I swear I'm here. Maybe I'll have to find some sort of a photo to put up while we're talking. But yeah, let's get to our. Do you have any hot takes? We talked off air about this, all about me, and in classic situation, I did not ask you what your hot take was, because I only care about what
I don't have any. Not enough has happened.
Yeah, well,
for me to have a real hot take, so I want to hear yours, James.
Well, that's a shame. Well, yeah. So my hot take, originally I wanted to say that the USA was going to lose 2 of their 3 games in this final window. I've actually changed my attitude, mostly because we have to have a hot take, and we have to be controversial. We have to be we have to have a hot take, essentially. But I'm going to go with Mexico is going to lose 2 of their final 3 games in this window, and hopefully, I don't have the math in front of me. Hopefully, that means that they will finish 4th. I'm hoping. That's my hope.
I love changing my hot takes on the fly, because, like, I don't know, when your guest ends up being really nice and cool, like, you can't just make fun of their team, right?
Absolutely. That's the way but no, and you know, all the credit to Adam too. Like, he did, great guy. He didn't change my mind too much because he has great personality. But I sort of thought about some more, and that's more the outcome I want. I want to see Mexico finish 4th. As much as this USA-Canada rivalry in every sport is real, I don't care if it's floor hockey or field hockey or netball. If it's Canada-USA, I always want to see Canada win. But I think in my heart of hearts, I absolutely do want to see that Mexico finish 4th. That is my dream. That'd be great to see Mexico go to Qatar, to have to play New Zealand or Solomon Islands. This, like, supposed, like, champions of CONCACAF, and yes, they've earned it over these years. Yes, they have done a great job all blah 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 blah. I would just love to see them go and have to play the winner of OFC. You know, wouldn't that be great to see Mexico do that?
It would be hilarious. Have they actually been in the Intercontinental before?
Oh man, I don't have that information in front of me. Come on, who do you think I am? I don't
Older soccer fan than me.
I don't think they have. That's a good. You know what? If you're looking that up, look it up. I don't think that's something that's ever happened in their history that they've had to do.
Intercontinental playoff.
Oh yeah, and don't worry.
10 second silence.
My camera is back.
Oh.
So I'm back on. Don't worry,
Yeah.
I'm back live. Don't worry, everybody. Everyone was really worried about my camera. My camera's back live. So yeah, did you find out information for me? My question.
Yeah, they did it in 2014. And they played New Zealand.
God,
so how's that?
Damn it. Okay, well, I would love to see that again. This is the revenge tour for New Zealand to come back. I want to see Mexico play New Zealand again. I really believe in Stefan Marinovic. What is he, 45 now? I love to see him. Any other players that I can't think of who plays for the New Zealand
Scott
national
Kennedy
team?
teammate and Jan Regensburg legend Sarpreet Singh.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm into that.
And Chris Wood, I get. That's all the New Zealand players I know.
I mean, that's two more than I knew, so I'll take that absolutely for sure. Yeah, that's my hot take. I know we're messing around some technical issues there on my end, obviously, but yeah, I would absolutely love to see Mexico lose. Not only lose games, if they lose all three, even perfect, but yeah, I think it's a better story if Panama or Costa Rica sneak into that third spot. That might be the expense of us if they end up doing that, but I see Canada, USA finish top three no matter what. Adam, great guy, has changed my mind. I do want to see them finish top three. But maybe I'll change my mind if the results don't go our way. But Mexico, God, I would love, especially after the crap that's going on with their fan base. I know it's club level down, and it's a much bigger issue we don't have time to talk about when it comes to toxic fan bases and toxic football fan bases. But yeah, the way that the Mexican fans have behaved themselves all through the CONCACAF World Cup qualifying, the way that things have been going on recently, they're too dark to get into down there. But I would absolutely love to see the El Tri fan base freak out for having to fly to Qatar for an intercontinental playoff. One game, not even a two-leg playoff. It's a one-leg playoff where anything can happen. That's included in Canada if they finish fourth. If Canada finished fourth, I would be worried for my life if they were playing Tonga in a intercontinental playoff, because it's just one game. Anything can happen. Honduras 8-1 proves anything can happen in one game. I'm done yelling.
Shoot, I feel like this is mild coming off our hot take segment, but man, I really wanted to talk about the presentation. I just want to talk about it forever, because it was just so gratifying to hear that Herdman did something like this right after I wished for it in the previous episode. I guess, James, is there anything that stuck out to you that you heard about the presentation, if you were listening intently?
I mean, definitely was listening. I was listening intently. I think the biggest picture thing I want to take from that presentation, and I think you guys touched on it at times and kind of went back to it, is that the overall thing I took is like, well, I'm surprised at how, I don't want to say how good of a manager John Herdman is, but this is one of those things that he constantly surprises us, right? And you and I have talked about it before when he changes formation. Someone's honking out, so I'm going to do. How he changes formation, how he makes up his mind. He makes these decisions that kind of raise eyebrows at first. I think that presentation just goes to show what a in-depth, there's more to John Herdman on the surface, right? We see things like this, even though it's a essentially a PowerPoint presentation. We say, oh wow, he really is a smart manager. He's an intelligent person. He has these fundamentals, and he is getting these. When you sit through a presentation as a player, as an academy, as a association, you're like, okay, snooze fest. But he's somehow gotten them to buy in. So that's what I sort of took from all the things you guys were talking about. I was like, wow, John Herdman is a smart guy, which sounds maybe stupid for me to say that, but he's a smart guy. He's getting them to take these things to heart, and you see it pay off on the field.
Yeah, just from everything that happened in World Cup qualifying cycle, I think, like I've mentioned, you get that sense that he's doing something else. But it was just such a relief I didn't even get to watch the presentation, but just to know that it's going on. It makes me feel smart, basically, is what I'm saying.
You're learning through osmosis. You know, when you have a test the next day and you put the book under your pillow and hope, okay, whatever knowledge I might gain from this textbook is going to get into my brain while I sleep. Yeah, you're watching. You're like, you know what? I get it. I totally understand.
Yes, that was my method of taking notes from the lecture, by taking notes from someone else taking notes.
It's all coming together.
There were two other things that we didn't mention in the interview that I want to talk about, but we don't have a lot of time, so I'll be quick. There's muscle memory drills that John Herdman apparently runs a team through, where they're learning like the choreography of our tactics, where with their hands, they'll use their hands to move the ball upfield while they're all on the pitch. And that's the way they get a sense of like how quickly the ball needs to transition. Like they'll literally handball the way up the field. I just thought that was interesting and a little unorthodox. That like for Herdman, like the idea, the choreography is almost more important than the practice. It's a little unexpected considering how hands-on he can be, but it's interesting. It's an interesting method of coaching.
It goes back to that generic thing I was just saying to like try and sum it up. I was just like, he's gotten the players and the association to buy into what he's saying. And it could be as silly as you want. If I think we've all had coaches. A lot of players had coaches like, hey, today, for our hockey practice, no sticks. We're gonna do the penalty kill, no sticks. And it's like, what? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And or today we're not gonna pass the ball today. We're just gonna go in position. We're gonna tell you where to go. And like, why is this guy talking?
The kind of thing to piss you off in gym class.
Yeah, but he could be doing the thing where it's like, no, we're gonna use a giant ball today. We're gonna kick that around. It's gonna show you. It's like, as long as you get your team to buy into it and there's results from buying into the method, then what does it matter what the way is getting there? So he's just. He could be doing like everyone's gonna wear ankle weights and we're gonna go for runs today and we're gonna practice with whatever it takes. Like it seems to be working. So yeah, I think that's just like he's found the team to overall buy into whatever methods some might find strange, some might find of course, how else would you do that? So yeah, that's just my biggest thing. I keep repeating myself, but that's what I take from all of that is that, he's getting the way he wants to do it and people to buy into it, which is crazy.
One more thing I found interesting about the presentation was the presence of Andrew Olivieri, everyone's favorite youth coach. So he was at this presentation with Herdman, and I don't know, to the extent that like they're perceived as very different coaches, it's interesting how in line they seemed with each other's ideas. As Adam said, Olivieri was the one presenting the idea of like tactical platforms and passing triangles and advanced platforms, generating expected goals. Olivieri was the one, pointing that out in the presentation. And I guess the idea is that like we're very much trying to implement these ideas, these kind of advanced ideas at the youth level. And that was interesting to me because that's always a criticism of the CSA, right? That we don't hold enough youth camps and that we don't really play a consistent style from the youth up. I don't know. Is that interesting to you?
I mean, the criticism of the CSA for a long time has always been very founded. We've deserved all the criticism we've gotten. We've found I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but we've found a way to change all that. So I think that's just like, okay, let's go with it. Let's go with it. Same thing when John Herdman changed the formation to a back three. Everyone raised eyebrows, and me myself included. And I'm sure we even talked about at the time, like we did not think that was work. We thought our back line was our problem, and that's a bad idea. But then they found a way to get results and hasn't looked back since. So yeah, as a whole for the CSA. It seems like we're turning things around. I still think the CSA deserves a lot of criticism. I still think the CSA is quite cheap. I still think the CSA has some things that they deserve to be called out on, but something's working.
All right, for the last 2 minutes, James, guess what? You're going to choose what we talk about. Are you going to let me go on a 2-minute Eustachio spiel?
Yes.
Or
the floor is yours first. I know you love your boy Stefan, so I want to give you 2 minutes. You get to talk about all you want, Stefan, all the time.
Okay. So in the transfer window, Stefan Eustachio went to Porto. That thing I've wanted to happen for years, and that proceeded not to happen every transfer window. And then that thing I tweeted about wouldn't happen and said wouldn't happen 2 episodes ago because of the transfer clause. And I still don't quite understand how it went through. Because from what I see on Transfermarkt, the optional fee, I think Pachos received from Porto, is going to end up with them losing money. And with a club at their size, I don't understand how that's possible. I don't understand why you would go and loan out your best player to the best team in the league when it's not even assured they're going to buy him. So it makes me think maybe there was some money that went under the table that's not really being talked about.
Yeah.
Maybe a loan fee outside of the buy clause. Because that's the only way that makes sense. That's the only way like a small club, so that sounds mean, but a club is the size of Passos could do that. I guess from his time at Porto specifically, he just, in his first start, he got subbed off in the 30th minute for reasons I thought were very unfair. Gil Vincent, or however you say it, went down to 10 men, and their coach wanted more attacking presence. So for me, I guess my hot take, I'm a little concerned that he probably isn't going to be getting much time at Porto this season. Probably not until they lose another midfielder.
Well, if you want to talk about Canadian internationals not getting time, let's talk about Richie Larea next time, because we are all at time today. But we'll see if Richie Larea gets a start at all at some point with Nottingham Forest, or even get subbed on, because Nottingham Forest had 5 subs last game and only used 2. But hey, we could go on. We got plenty of time to talk about that next time. The next window is just a couple weeks. I'm sure we'll be back in just a few weeks too, my friend. Once again, thank you for having me on my own show.
Yay, James said the thing.
James said the thing. All right, my friend. Thank you. Take care. I'll see you soon.